out of water, which if you know anything about like bread and stuff like that, it's not exactly how it works. Yeah, you know, and so like it was just interesting. What was it? Tasted as a wafer with honey. You know, so yeah, real good. And then to make sure that they had protein, and in the evening, quail would just fill the camp. There'd just be quail everywhere. And again, I've always prayed for that kind of a hunting trip. I guess it's not really hunting goat, that's what it is, right? We just gather them up and everything. Yeah, it's very neat, and just God is taking care of them. We've already had the pillar of fire, as well as the cloud that kept them cool, the pillar of fire that kept them warm and safe. So they've experienced a lot of these wonderful miracles. They've already came down to the Red Sea. They've been pressured. They've felt the pressure of the world and the enemies, and fell into fears, then into rejoicement because of the deliverance, back into fears. They've grumbled, they've mumbled, they've done all these different things. Moses himself had partaken in most of those same situations in some way, some form. Moses continues, though, to hear the words of God and to continue to do them. You know, I don't know how else to say it. He wasn't exactly the greatest at it. I'll just put it that way. You know, those times he's sitting arguing with God, he's complaining, things like that. A lot of the similarities, which I think we've all done. So as far as like anything as far as guilty, you know, we've all been guilty of those things. Thank God for Jesus. Yeah, the promise of that Messiah that's going to come and take away our sins. Moses, having that promise, comes down. Last week we got, again, through 16 here, where the manna itself, if they kept it overnight on the 6 days out of the week, or was it 5 days out of the week, if they kept it overnight, it became worm infested. And no matter what they put it in, it was not good. And God told them, and I'm going to provide for you every day. You know, and so you don't need to. They would do it. They tried to do it anyways. They found out that God's word was again true. So they started doing it God's way until it came to the 6th day, because then on the 6th day, God said, don't worry, you go out and gather double. That you only eat the one portion today, and then tomorrow you'll have it for the day of the Sabbath, which was the day of rest, in which there would be no manna available. And some people went out looking for it anyways. There wasn't any, just like God said, which has kind of been a recurring theme, right? Finding out that it is just the way that God said it was. Yes? Unfortunately, many times, when do we find out that it is the way that God said it was? After, either we live the opposite or else we follow it. But either way, it's after the fact is when we actually get to see it that way. Why is it that way?
So you live by faith.
Okay, and Willie's hitting, I'm sorry, Deb, I didn't even hear what you said, but Willie hit what I was looking for. We'll go with that. Okay. Defer that. Yeah, I mean, it's really what I was looking for there. It's by faith. You know, faith is the reality of what God says, not what we see. What makes any, I mean, how many of you know anything about quail? Only what I've said? Have you ever had, I mean, unless you baited them in and hid in strong cover, have you ever had quail just walk right up to you? I mean, like, even the ones that like live on the golf courses and stuff, they still run from you. And they're like living in neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like, they're close to being domesticated, you know, as you can get almost. And even the ones that Jerry Hickman used to raise in his backyard, if you opened that gate at all, they were gone. Like, I mean, them things, they you know, so for them just to walk into the camp and be like, here, come here, you know, and as many as you want, you know, that's not, you know, so, you know, that dew would create this coriander-like substance that then you could turn into bread and bake or boil. And it's going to taste like wafers and honey. And it'll be there every morning. And there's plenty for everybody. Like 2 ounces for every person. Or whatever it was, 2 quarts, or whatever it was. I can't remember now. I have it in my notes from last week. But quarts. That's a lot, by the way. You know? And so, like, you know, like, that's just amazing, right? It's impossible, isn't it? You know? But is it? Because is it impossible for us? But it's not impossible for God. Yeah? And that's the faith, though. Yes? Is it possible? So sorry. That fell short, hopefully. You're right, you know, she was like, oh my God. Well, if you'd seen hers, you'd understood mine. I'm so sorry. Now I completely lost what I was saying. It was like a call. Land over there, whatever I was going to say, land over there. Around the tip of the there. What was I saying? The faith is impossible. Is it impossible? All things are possible with God. Okay? And guys, you know, the faith, the reality of it's not about what we see, it's just based on what God says. Yes? Oh, I know what I was about to say. Does it make any sense that God would leave his throne and become like you and me? To carry around the flesh and have to deal with all of the temptations that our flesh goes through on an hour-to-hour basis, really yet day for day. Does that make sense? Do you understand my point? Does it make any sense that God would do so and out of pleasure to save us who have lived contrary to him our whole entire lives? Be pleased to kill his son who left that glorious place to become flesh? And then kept it perfect, and then it pleased him to kill him? Like that doesn't, consciously, like that doesn't really make sense that he would love us so much. Yeah? But we who've experienced his love, what do we know is true? It's just like he said. Yeah? And for some of us, we had to walk before we found it out to be that way, right? You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, boom, it just like, yeah. And for some it was. Some of it was just like a light bulb, and it was just like, bam, the first time probably that they ever heard, they would just fell out on the floor. You know, me, I was raised under the word. So for me, it was not that way at all. You know, and then there's moments and times where still I want to try to say that it, you know, or want to try to live it that it isn't his way. You know what I always find out? It was, and it is, and it always will be exactly the way that he said it is. Yeah? And even though things around me may not look that way. And even though to me, and according to the world, it would not make sense. Yes? And guys, it is by faith. And for Moses, I mean, the faith that Moses had to walk on to bring these out of Egypt, to return back to the land that he himself was, I mean, he had a bounty out on his head. And to walk right in there with a staff. No, not a sword or a machine gun, which would have been probably better than a sword. Maybe we should ask God for that when we walked in there, is what I would have been like. Anyways, he just walks right in to the very palace of the person who has bounty on his head. And then demands that God's testimony is to let his people go so they can go worship him. And I'm going to lead them out of there. How, like, brazen is that? Does it make any sense to do so? I mean, you think about it, every bit of this journey, he had to walk it by faith. Yeah? And that's why he is the hero of faith. And so, guys, here in chapter 17, it says that all the congregation of the children of Israel set out on their journey from the wilderness of sin. Remember that sin is not the same word that we use in English today as the word sin, as it is the mark. It's just the way that it is. According to the commandment of the Lord. So they left just as the Lord had commanded them, and then they camped in this place, Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. So we've already had the bitter water, and now here we come in, and there is no water. Therefore the people contended with Moses, and said, "Give us water that we may drink." So Moses said to them, "Why do you contend with me? And why do you tempt the Lord?" Now, if you realize, how many times now have we had this? And if the next verse says they thirst for water and they complain. How many times have we had this run down? So before Moses shows up on the scene, you know what they were doing? They were complaining. Okay? And it says that God, out of love and mercy for his people, heard them. And so then he comes to Moses and he sends Moses. So where they could be out of a life of complaining instead be in a life of joy and happiness and peace. Right? Because what they were in was a state of bondage in their complaints of all the things that they were doing. It's the same as any lost soul. Yeah? And God wants them delivered from it. So God sends Moses to free them. Yes? As the minister. If you remember, God says, I will speak to you and you will speak my words. Yes? So literally the pastor, if you will. Yes? Then that's where Moses argues back and forth, and then God says, okay, you can use Aaron as your translator. Because he was saying I stutter too much. Aaron became a translator. So they go on. We have all these different miracles and all these different wonderful happenings that are in their faith. You know, how many times have they complained? You know, guys. Yeah, literally every single thing. Like it really, and yet at the same time, then the Lord blesses them, and then what do they do? Well, many of them, you know, but there's the one occasion where it does make it very, very clear is the occasion in which the Red Sea, that they rejoiced. Yes? I mean, to the point of dancing and singing, and right? And then all of a sudden what you hear is 3 days later, complaining. Forgot everything, and they act like every single one of the complaints. Why is it that you have brought us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock every single time? Why did you do this to kill us? What did God promise them? Deliverance, right? So what you see, though, is that there's like, you know, not all of Israel is like Israel. One. You see that there are some that just can't grasp it. It's just his words. Even with the miracles that they've seen. And so this was a question I actually asked last week and then never came back and addressed. Really. Have you ever had anybody ever tell you that they believe if they've seen a sign? If God would show me a sign. Yeah? That is a lie. Well, the thing is that the reason why it's the lie is this. God's signs are all right there for them. They just are blind and cannot see them. Just like for them, the deliverance is there and it's there and it's there, but they're just blind to it. God's love is just right there and right there and right there, but they're just blind to it. And I'm saying they as a general term. And I mean it that way because it wasn't all of them. Okay? And don't think for a second that it was every single one of them. It wasn't that way. Okay? But there is a lot of them. Okay? And the majority. Okay? And it is just like today. The thing that's beautiful to me too is that, oh, I'm sorry, let me stay on this. The signs. You know, one of the greatest signs, if anybody ever tells you that, you know one of the greatest signs of proof that God loves them and that the gospel is true? Really? Because you were there. Because you're there telling. That's the greatest sign that God loves them. Because throughout, how many billions of people live in this world? For you to cross America. Yes? And how many people do we pass every day that we never do anything to talk to? Or we don't even think to talk to, or whatever it is. But we don't. So for that conversation to be happening with them right there, do you realize how much of a sign of the love of God that is taking place in them right then and there? Doesn't mean that they can see it. What they might see is some 30-plus-year-old guy with gray hair and, you know, standing there talking to them and What some of them told me preaching to them, they say is a negative. It's just they only knew the truth, that a preacher is just really proclaiming the words of God. So they mean it as some sort of like stab to me, and they have no idea the truth that they're really saying right there and how beautiful it is that's happening for them right there. You know what? I'm never telling them what they're doing wrong. I've told people they've done everything wrong. But you know what I want to tell them? You know what I'm trying to show them? It's what he's done right. We all have our wrongs. What did he do? Did he take them away? What's the greatest sign of love that could ever be shown? You know, so guys, if somebody says to you, well, if God just showed me a sign, you can tell him he is right now. I'm it. And not trying to be somebody. It's not because it ain't you. You just tell them about Jesus, but here's your sign. Guys, what is it? Isaiah says, who will believe our report? You know, and the Lord said, you know, I stretch out my arm, I reveal my arm. Is that Isaiah 53, I want to say, but I'm not sure if that's where it's where it takes into like by his stripes we're healed. I believe it's in that part. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so forgive me if I'm off. But an experience, and actually Tracy was there with me, and it was almost 20 years ago now. Some of our brethren down there in Mexico, and one of them had gotten off, and you know, and just there was a lot of different things, guys. It was when meth became a big thing down in Mexico. We finally were making a big push to try to kill a lot of the labs up here. And so it became a big thing down there all of a sudden. And this one gentleman kind of got wrapped up in that, and he got wrapped up in just a lot of different things. And but he kept on telling us, he kept on saying, man, but I just don't know what God has to show me. Why won't God send me, you know, somebody to show? And we're like, dude, hello, like we're here. We're and here's what God says. And we actually linked to that text right there. And showed him, you know, and I'm happy and thankful to report that, you know, today he's believing. At that moment, didn't. Okay, and it took years of him having to go through some things, and then all of a sudden one day he was like, I remember. Yeah, which made all the rest of it worth it, by the way, in my mind. Okay, but nonetheless, guys, you know that Clint, you were waving your hand around. Did you find it?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? That he shall go before him with a tender plan.
Yeah, so that right there, Isaiah 53. So they, you know, and that arm of the arm of the Lord is being revealed. Was being revealed right there. You know what that arm was doing for him? Reaching out to him. It wasn't beating on him. You know, if God would just show me a sign, I think what they want is God to go, lightning, sign from God, burn him up, toast him, you know, and then they're like, okay, God came to show me something. No, God comes with love, reaches out, tries to lift you up, you know, and again, guys, you know, then that sign, and again, for these guys, you know, man, the signs, how many signs? You know, guys, the thing is it isn't about the signs. Now, the signs are there for a beautiful, beautiful reason. They're for the lost to be made safe. That's what the signs are there for. Yes? They're there for us of faith, to exalt our faith, to make it established. Yes? To make us firm in faith. Yeah? Excuse me. Like, you know, if we're starting to slip off with something, then all of a sudden you see, man, oh, God's love is still right there. He hasn't changed. How many times have you thought that God's love changed somehow? You understand the question? You know, like, oh my gosh, God's trying to get me. You know, or something like that. Or, I don't know if God could still love me because I did. You know, I mean, you understand, like, we've all like had like these different moments where those things ran through us, and sometimes it's those signs that all of a sudden are like, wait a minute, no, what the heck am I thinking even? And that ain't the Lord, that's from the imps of hell. Yeah? You know, he is true. He has love. He is this way. Yes? And so, those signs can be a wonderful thing for us of faith, but they can also be a tool for those who are not. And hopefully, again, I doubt it, but hopefully we'll get some of that tonight. So I'm sorry for running off on that, but I thought that was big to come back on from last week. Guys, those who see the signs, they're the ones who get made alive. How many times have we been blind given sight to see? See, we always just think about physical blind and physical being able to see. Who was it? Was it Nicodemus? Was he the one that cried? No, Nicodemus is the one who comes over during the night, right? Who's the one that climbed up in the tree? Zacchaeus. Yeah? Nicodemus is the other one, right? I mean, those guys, they could see, couldn't they? They could physically see, but after meeting Jesus, they could see. Yeah? Do you understand? And that happens for many. Yes? And so it is a beautiful, wonderful thing. But at the same time, if somebody says, well, I've never believed because God's never shown me a sign, they just can't see the signs that are all right around them. And the beautiful thing is, if you were right there to hear that, then you should have a response to be able to give it. And here's your sign. Man, God loves you. Man, God's brought me right here, right now, for us to be able to have this conversation. Here's your sign. Yeah? Come on, man. Let's get to Jesus, our Savior. Come on, man. Look what God's worked through His mighty hand to bring you deliverance. Why do you go to church every Sunday? Because He delivered me with that same mighty hand that He led me right here and talk to you right now. That's the same mighty hand that He used to deliver me. Yeah? And then look at all the different signs that God's given us. Yes? So this one right here, guys, it says Moses cried out to the Lord. He said, that tempted the Lord. Moses says to them, why do you contend with me? Why do you tempt the Lord? And if you think about it, guys, how many times have they done that? And yet, what has God continually shown to them? His love, signs. He was for them. Shows them mercy.
He's answering the first initial cry.
He's answering their first initial cry, which, by the way, at this point, they've already forgot about it. And if you realize at this point, they're saying, let's go back. It'd be better for us to go back and die there. And they've already made that comment like twice. Yeah? They completely forgot what they even originally prayed for, which was deliverance. And God's bringing them. Yeah? Not necessarily by the means that they probably would have wanted. Right? And I think it was the pastor who brought that up, and I know that most of us have at different times. How many of us wanted to be baptized and then raised right to heaven? And at that moment, I really did. Now, not so much, because now I see that there is work to be done. And to bring the gospel, the world needs it. It needs His love brought. Guys, the thing that is beautiful is that, right here, that day of grace, and that day of grace, while they still had it, God's mercy is being shown, and it's being shown right here. They cried out about the livestock, the children, and all of the people. And I believe, what do we have? So, let's see if I can find it real quick. I got new contacts in, which are wonderful and thankful. Yeah, the screw doesn't fall out of them. But they're kind of messing with me right now. So I'm losing where that's at. But there was somewhere there where it said that there was, I believe it was, I don't want to quote it without having it. How many people, it was just the men alone that counted. How many thousands upon thousands that there were. And then that was only counting the men, not even the women or the children. And so when they are kind of making this complaint, the magnitude of that, and they understand it with compassion, though. They are walking through a desert. It's hot, and there ain't no water. There really isn't, So kind of, on one hand, it's easy to go, oh my gosh, they're so horrible. Kind of step back for a second and say, like, kind of a little bit of compassion, I guess, is what I'd like us to kind of have. It says, so Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, what shall I do with this people? What am I going to do with all these people? By the way, God, they're ready to kill me. So they're ready to stone me. What am I going to do with them? The Lord says, you go on before the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, take your hand in the rod, and that you struck the river with, and go. Behold, I will stand before you, and there will be a rock in Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and the water will come out of it, that the people may drink. So Moses did this in the sight of the elders. So he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah. Massah meant tempted, and Meribah meant contention. I believe that's right. Oh, contention and testing. Tempted and contention.
Quarreling.
Tempted, Massah, tempted, contention, which contention means arguing, just quarreling, yes. Because of the contention of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, is the Lord even among us or not? Which that's the one that's like, just amazing to me on one hand, because I'm just like, man, how could you even? Remember what they were just singing, like, a week before? Hey, God's with us, He's for us. By the way, what are all the other towns saying? Anybody remember? All the other towns, all the other countries. Do you know what they're all saying? God is with them. The living God is with them. Their testimony, everybody else's testimony. Man, God's with them. Is God even with us? I'm sorry for laughing about it, guys, but it to me it's humorous. God is using this for a mighty work amongst all these other nations. Okay, and it's never just for us. It's never just for one. It's never just for us. Guys, in verse 8, now Amalek came and fought with Israel, and Moses said to Joshua, "Choose us some men and go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand." So Joshua did so, as Moses said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And so it was, when Moses held his hands up, Israel prevailed. And when he let his hands down, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands became heavy. So they took a stone and they put it under him. And he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hand, one on one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And so Joshua defeated Amalek and the people with the edge of the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this as a memorial in a book and recount it to the hearing of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from the kingdom of heaven." And Moses built an altar and named it, "The Lord is my banner." For he said, because the Lord has sworn, the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Okay. So, you guys had anything there? Huh? With the people, because Moses, as a pastor does, although sometimes people might drive him crazy, he loves them. He really does. I mean, he gave up his whole entire life to see them to live. And he could have stayed right there where he was at, had a wonderful, wonderful life there with his wife and his 2 boys, and he gave up all of that to take on the ministry that God called him to. And it's an honorable thing. But yeah, why did he put up with it and not just let him get devoured? There's times where he gets very, very upset with them. And you read through like some of the other books, and you'll see Moses is kind of nice about himself and his reaction to certain things in Exodus. I'll just put it that way. Okay? Some of the others give a little bit more account of the emotion that Moses went through in some of these instances. Okay? Nonetheless, Moses here, I think it's, okay, so this was the part that was really, really big to me. Why hands up versus hands down? Okay, rejoice. Yeah. Whose power is it? Who is, you realize that all these guys are farmers and farmers in Hertzburg. They're not, and by the way, what they've been eating is garlic soup for as long as we know. I mean, years and years and years and years and years.
Generation.
Like literally, that's all that they were. So I mean, and garlic has a lot of wonderful things. But to keep you completely like strong and healthy and a warrior, not the biggest reality. Okay? So when he says that they went out there with these men, and God calls them his warriors and his army, I don't think they probably looked like the army that was coming against them. Do you understand? Just like we may not look like much of an army walking out of here and going out back into this world. Yeah? But what was Moses' army with? God, the words of God. Yes? And what did he apply? The words of God. And so what did Moses find himself to be? Victorious and powerful and strong. All by just holding his hand. Yeah? If your hands are down, usually where your head. When you get tired, which it says you got tired, right? When you get tired, what happens to your hand? I mean, as soon as you feel that tiredness really set in. Hands are the first thing, right? What's next? Shoulders in the back. And then after a few minutes, the head too. Right? Then everything you're looking at is just right here. Right? The Lord says in Hebrews chapter 12, he says to strengthen the hands which hang down. Strengthen them. You know that hanging down, he says there, is because we get tired and we forget the exhortations of the Lord, that he deals with us as with children, that we have to go through chastisements, that we have to go through troubles, that this world is filled with them, and yet we are to endure in the race of faith with endurance. That's what the whole exhortation in chapter 12 is, of Hebrews. And you relate that right back into the story here with Moses. Was Moses tired? Yeah. But you know, could Moses hold his own hands up all day and all night? Have you ever tried, by the way? Yeah, a few minutes. Like, and you're, yeah, exactly. You start doing, and he couldn't do that. I mean, he had to have, he had to have his hands, both hands up. So he couldn't even you understand? Guys, as we're walking in faith, do your hands ever get tired? Does all of a sudden the attention all of a sudden start to fall to the right here instead of our eyes up? If our hands are up, it's a lot easier to reach for somebody else, by the way. Yeah? And by the way, if Aaron and Hur weren't there for their brother, what would happen? And it wouldn't have just been Moses, but all of the soldiers, all of the children, everything that they were also scared of by the water thing, all of those would have been lost, killed. Yeah? But what did it take for them to have victory? It took two brothers to love everybody and that one brother enough to get over there and get underneath his arms and support his arms. Just like in Hebrews, it moves from the focus of oneself and oneself's, and he kind of goes back and forth, so I shouldn't say quite that way. But from the focus of oneself and self-salvation to helping one another keep the faith and make it to that salvation. Yes? You guys, there's a lot of times when we get kind of fall into that, and what we need is somebody to get up there and lift up our eyes. To carry our weight for a little bit when we can. Yeah? I love that old song, Lean on Me. Okay? When you can't stand. And I'll be there. Right? And I'll be, all you have to do is just call me. And I'll be right there. Yeah? It's really what that whole song is really about. Yeah? Call your brother if you need a hand. Because we all need somebody to lean on. right? That's the actual words there of the song. Because the reality is, in our walk of faith, we always do. We always need that, yeah? And it's sweet there that with Moses and for all of the people, and what's also kind of neat is that all of the other people probably don't even know. Or in that moment, they did not know. They weren't up on top of the hill. It was just those three. Yeah? And outside of Joshua, it doesn't make clear that there's any others that know that God said for this to be that way. Does that make sense? Do you understand? So sometimes we don't know everything. We don't need to know everything as sheep. Yeah? What we do need to know is that if we see somebody and their hands are starting to fall down, then we should do everything we can to lift them up. Yeah? Because we do. It does take all of us. We're all a body with one another. In the warning there from the situation there with Amalek is that if you want to wage wars, but don't do it against God's people. Because like that promise that God makes right there, and this isn't the only place that it happens. There's other places that this happens. But throughout all generations, it's not something that I would want for anybody. And especially the generations and generations and generations. For God to promise that while they were in this life, He would wage war against them. Take it for what it's worth. Good on those? Yeah? I don't want to handle them downer, so let's get to 18. Okay? And guys, the downer part, that is what it is. Okay? But you remember, man, no, they won the victory. They won that battle. They won that war. And they did it by the words of God, yes, and by being there for one another. Yeah? So how do we won in our battles? We need victories. Not that God hasn't given us many. Just like all the signs. Yeah? And we did it by being there for each other, helping each other, yeah, breaking the words of God, lifting each other up. 18. And Jethro, you remember Jethro? I always wondered where that name Jethro came from. I thought it was just something back in the hills of Missouri. Hey Jethro, get over here! I thought it was just hillbilly. I did not know. So when I was a kid, go back there to Missouri, you always come across, Jethro, and just always would, and so I just thought it'd be something that was just common back there. I never heard it out here in Arizona. I hear it back there in the hills of Missouri all the time. So until I got older and actually read this, and then I was like, oh, it's a funny thing. And Jethro, the priest of Midian, who is Moses' father-in-law, heard of all of that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people. All these signs that's been going on, are they for the people? Are they for Moses? Yes. But who else are they for? They're for everybody. Yeah? Ain't that, to me, that's just amazing, guys, and that's just awesome about God. He's doing it for everybody. Now, if you remember, Jethro was a priest there, but he was a priest of some other religion. Okay? Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he had sent her back. I don't know when that happened, it doesn't say. Sorry for smiling. I don't know if it was when if you remember the boys had to be circumcised. She got really, really hateful and threw which the throwing part was normal, but throwing him at him would not be. Throwing him at his feet and calling him the father of blood because he said that his boys had to be circumcised. Yeah. So I don't know if that's when she got sent back or when it was. Maybe it was, out of care for her and the boys. Every time they went outside of Egypt, they would just have to go out and camp out out there in the desert. You know, maybe bandits, thieves. No, there ain't no telling what the reason might have been. But anyways, the two sons, Gershon, and we had Elazar. Yeah. They, each one's name, I have being a stranger in a foreign land, and then the God of my father was my help. He delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. So one was delivered, the other one was a stranger in a foreign land, because Moses was a stranger in a foreign land and was delivered from the hand of Pharaoh. So it says, so then, again, now this is coming from Jethro. I'm sorry. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moses in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. Now he said to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and your two sons with him. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, bowed down, and kissed him. I have no idea how short Jethro was that he had to bow down and kiss him. No? Debbie's the only one who did that. And they asked each other about the well-being. And then they went into the tent. And Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. Then Jethro rejoiced for all the good which the Lord had done for Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, Blessed be to the Lord, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the living God, the Lord, is greater than all of the gods. For in everything in which they behaved proudly, he, capitalized God, was above them. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and other sacrifices to offer to God. What just happened? Jethro just got saved.
No, that's what we talk about the guy in that spot. That right there. Where's his son?
Yeah, and Jethro, and there ain't no doubt, Jethro, from everything that you kind of do read right there, sounds like, he's an awesome man. When Moses first meets him, he's young, right? First thing that he says is like, what the heck do all the girls do is leave this dude out there. He just helped you. Like, what's wrong with you girls? Most times be like, man, good you let that guy out there, or you didn't bring him up there. Jethro, anyways. The point is, like, everything about Jethro, he takes him in, and, he does become his son, right? But from the very beginning, he takes him in as a son, takes care of him, feeds him, and ends up giving his daughter to him. All those different things, guys. Jethro was quite the stand-up guy, you'd have to say, as far as the personality of him and the person. When Moses tells him that God came to him with that vision of the burning bush, Jethro said, man, you got to go then and do what God tells you to do. Yeah? Jethro's an amazing guy, but it's amazing. What's beautiful, I was going to use that relation again, but what's beautiful to me is that all of a sudden you have all these events that take place, and the testimony of those events that take place. And it's by the testimony, by Moses' testimony. Jethro had already heard about it, right? It makes that clear earlier on. But it was by Moses' testimony that, man, this is the deliverance of the Lord, that Jethro ends up being converted, and then he himself takes up to make a sacrifice. And by the way, there was the one sacrifice, which would have been the normal sacrifice, but then there's the other sacrifices, and what you see is that Aaron ends up there and all the elders of Israel. So all those other little sacrifices, so to speak, those were all the rest of the food that was actually prepared for all of the elders of Israel. And he invited them into his tent. And so it was on the next day that Moses set to judge the people. Now, this word judge, it was to make a decision between, or over. Okay? It's not judge as in like, oh, this is, you're right, you're wrong, Jim. It wasn't like that. But like Jim had something that was going on, he would bring it to Moses, and then Moses would make a decision. Okay, so just to understand that part. So he said to judge the people. And the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. So when Moses' father-in-law saw all that the people did and all that he did with the people, he said, "What is this thing that you do with the people? Why do you alone sit and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?" So Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because people come to me to inquire of God. And when they have a difficulty, they come to me. And I judge between one and another. And I make known the statutes of God and his laws." So yeah, the decision between one and another. So Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out. For this thing is too much for you. You are not able to perform it by yourself. So listen now to my voice, and I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. Stand before God for the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to God. And you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them the way in which they must walk and the work that they must do. Moreover, you shall select the people that are able men, such as that fear God, men that are of the truth, that hate covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them make the decisions for the people at all times. Then it will be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you, for they will bear the burden with you. If you do this thing, and if God so commands you, then you will be able to endure. And all this people will also go to their place in peace." Very, very neat. Some different things in this. So let me finish out. So Moses heeded the voice of his father-in-law. He did all that he had said. Moses chose able men out of Israel and made them heads over the people. Rulers of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. So they judged the people at all times. But in hard cases they brought to Moses, but they judged every small case themselves. Then Moses let their father-in-law depart, and he went his own way back to his own land. Okay. The out, I think, is really, really cool. So first of all, Moses' father-in-law, he gets saved. They're sacrificed. They eat dinner. The next day comes. He watches the events of the day. Jethro, obviously, is quite older. Yes? Had a lot of experiences. Right? So, the wisdom. Obvious that Moses respects him and loves him. Right? He comes in, he says, son, you're not going to survive. You're not going to live if you keep on doing it this way. Basically, what you're going to die of is you're probably going to die of stress. You're trying to handle all of this. Right? I've been accused of the same, by the way. But he says, man, you can't do this by yourself. What you have to do is you have to divide up the labors. Yeah? And you find some good men. And he gives out these instructions. Able, they must have love, honor, and respect for God, and it's the living God. They must be men of truth. They must hate covetousness, desiring for oneself. And these men you place. Yes? Then he gives himself an out later on, and he says, listen, if you do this thing, and if God commands you so. So basically, you take this to God. And if God tells you, yes, you do this thing, then you do it, and it'll be profitable for you. But this is my thoughts on it, more or less. Yeah? And probably by experience, I would have to say. Okay? Do you know what just happened right there? Elders were appointed. Okay, now there was already elders, so to speak, yes? But then this is what we become in the New Testament church becomes the outline for an elder. which I thought was just absolutely awesome. It was just beautiful. Yeah? Love and honor and respect the Lord. Speaking the truth. Standing for truth. No matter what the cost. Yes? Love, honor, and respect the Lord and Him only. Not ever seeking for oneself. But always for the sake of the whole. Couldn't help it. Sorry, glancing at different elders that are sitting in here. Yeah? And it's pretty amazing to me and just beautiful that He gave that and how God used Jethro right there. Jethro being saved and then inspired by God to bring that there to Moses. And I thought that's really, really neat. And how, just even today, just in our body and everything, just so thankful for the elders that we do have, for the work that they do, for the overseeing that they do, for the little things that they deal with and contend with and take the weight off of. And thank you guys for it. God just working in all things, always working for the salvation and the deliverance of His people. Always working for the strength, really, of His body, and building us right here at Pleasant View into what we are today, and doing it through His words and doing it how many generations ago. Still yet using those same soldiers of faith to encourage us and exhort us, to give us patterns and examples to live after. Pretty awesome. If Moses is the pastor, Aaron, Hur, and some of those old boys, there's this fable that pastors are supposed to be perfect, right? Never in meeting, or these different things like that. And it's just, again, guys, it's a pleasure to have a body like we have here. The exhortations, the different little comments, words, physical, mental, and just prayer, labor that is given by our elders and by the rest of our body members to help us all stand. And as a minister, there's going to be times when I'm going to need somebody to hold up my arms. Make it through the day. Yeah? So we can see some victories. We all need that sometimes. And I think it's neat to hear that it showed Moses and his own weakness in that, but then to show God's strength. So that through Moses' weakness, not being able to physically hold up his arms, you're able to see the strength of God and how He uses the body to be able to lift them up, and then the whole church will become victorious. Yeah? And all the little pieces come together, all working together, and God doing it, and nobody jumped up, oh, I'm going to go. It wasn't even like that. It was, so much more, I don't know, I don't know how to explain it. Nobody ran off down the road on anything. Everybody was just together. Even in a complaint. Trying to joke. Okay, never mind. No, but God used those men and women. Again, we had I can't remember her name now from last week there, Miriam. There last week, and again, you guys, the men and women of faith, they just continue to stand out throughout all these scriptures. Thank God for it. Thank God for these books. Guys, the next part there is Mount Sinai. And so I guess we'll go ahead and try to plunge through that. But the next part there in Hebrews jumps to Joshua. Okay? So we kind of walked through as far as Hebrews there up to this point. As we can continue through the book of Exodus if you guys want to. So that is my big question for tonight. We can continue on through Exodus if you guys want to continue on through Exodus, or else we can continue on with the specific heroes and the parts that he talks about there specifically in Hebrews. What would you guys like to do? I'm definitely gonna continue at least through Sinai, okay, and through the Ten Commandments and that part of it, and the coming of that, and how that all breaks down, okay? But there's still, what, another 15, 20 chapters after that? The institutions of this and that, and the how to's of that and those, and it is the heroes of faith, and the point that he brought up to, actually, we've already went past anyways. The thing is, we've already went past in Exodus what he talks about there in Hebrews. In Hebrews, he says, man, he led them up to the Red Sea, and they passed through by dry land, and the enemies were swallowed up, and then immediately it jumps from that into Joshua and Rahab. Yes? So we can continue on. I do want to go ahead and get this there on Sinai now, just for the history part of it. Okay? But outside of that, I don't know if it's really necessary for us to, I mean, it gets into a lot of wordy stuff. Stick with Hebrews. I've got 3, 4 that are going, yes, stick with Hebrews. Nobody else is saying anything otherwise. So we'll go ahead and finish through Sinai, yes, and the receiving of the Ten Commandments in that part. And then we'll jump to Joshua. And I'll go ahead and just kind of, just kind of storyline on that part and everything like that. We'll go ahead and kind of try to kind of paraphrase, just kind of say a few different things of the events, kind of that lead in between. But Joshua does, he writes it from his perspective. Okay? Where this right here is written from Moses' perspective. All right, and a lot of the same events, but from a different point of view. Okay, and so then you pick up different details, you pick up different characters, you pick up a ton of different things because it's from a whole different, just like you do in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Right, all the same story, yet all from different perspectives, and so you get little different insights. And some of it is big to me spiritually because it gives a lot of insight that's touched my heart. Okay. So I definitely think it's good to be able to do that. And then again, we'll continue the text read from there. Sound good? So next week we'll be back into Exodus then, guys, Exodus 19, and we'll walk it through, and then the Ten Commandments, and we'll see what goes. The point, the purpose, we'll hit all of those details. Okay with that? And then we'll be ready to move on to Joshua, I believe, the next week after. Sound great? Good, guys? All right, I thank you guys for enduring. I thank you guys for enduring the noise and everything like that. They told me they were shut down for the night, and that they were more than willing to keep on working. And I said, man, you know what? If you guys are willing, it ain't gonna bother us. So I appreciate you guys. And it didn't seem like it really distracted anybody. I appreciate that because I know a lot of times little things can. So I love you all. Hope that you guys had a wonderful night. Hope it was good. And God's working in salvation, guys, and He's working it through us. And I love you for it. Keep on walking, keep on marching. Remember, the Lord's got it. He's leading us. And so.